Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel, and we are meeting for a longer video after a really long time. I'll be posting these more often now because I have planned to keep posting shorter videos on Instagram, and if I get enough time, I would be posting the same here. But along with that, parallelly, I would also be posting these longer videos so that there is more to be shared. So the topic of discussion for today's video is this: Sita's Sister by Kavita Kane. She's a well-known writer of several other books like Karna's Wife, and then there's one more which I cannot recall at the moment, but something related to retelling of an epic about it. So in this book, she talks about Ramayana, but with the perspective of Urmila, a character who is not remembered much, at least not to her true potential, to the extent that she deserves to be remembered for. And yeah, so this book brings the forgotten heroine of the Ramayana, Urmila, to life. In the back cover of the book, it says, marriage did not hold much interest for Urmila, but it was a social discipline she would have to conform to. She would rather seek knowledge instead of a suitor. So, not that it's demeaning the institution of marriage, it's just that this is again a hint to how Urmila was more than a wife living alone for those 14 years without Lakshman. She was more than that. She was herself. And we actually experience that when we read it. So I'm somebody who takes a lot of time to read books which can be read really quickly. But even after that, I have been able to complete it quicker than I expected. So yeah, people read at stretch. I take breaks at stretch. So probably that's the reason I took more time than others because I have read about or rather seen videos by other creators, other readers, fellow readers who have completed it at a single sitting. Urmila sacrifices, but do we recognize it? Is it recognized? Is it acknowledged? And if it is it acknowledged to the extent that it deserves to be acknowledged? That's the question. Now, if we say that Lakshman sacrificed, Sita sacrificed because they were in exile in Vanvas with Ram, did Urmila not sacrifice? Was it an action or do we take this action as an inaction? And if we consider this an inaction, what is the reason? Have we misunderstood Urmila? Have we not been able to um, find more about her and the kind of person she was? So she's the lesser known sister of Sita and the wife of Lakshman. Now we have seen in this book it's clearly mentioned that there were four of them: Sita, Urmila, then Mandavi, and Kirti. So Kirti's full name was given, but then to make it easier, the writer changed it to Kirti, and that's all I remember. So Kirti and Mandavi, they were cousin sisters of Sita and Urmila. Now, obviously, we know how Sita uh, was adopted by Janak and Sunaina, Urmila's parents. They always had that special corner for all their daughters, especially Sita. because she was the eldest, followed by the cousin sisters, Mandavi and Kriti. But somewhere in all this, Urmila has been shown to be neglected a bit, probably to add the dramatic effect to the context in which the story has been written. And even otherwise, we can see how Janak and Sunaina has been shown to um, be more mm, careful and to be thinking and getting worried more for Sita because she was not um, she didn't have her real parents and they were worried about her future and how she's going to be looked at by the society once she grows up. So they were more worried about her. That was the reason why they cared more or not cared, but that's why Urmila has been shown to be a bit neglected, um, while a lot of love was showered on Sita. But Urmila understands everything. She understands why that happened, and she also understands that she is equally loved. But they were loved differently. Yes, I think that would be the right way to describe it. So the sisters were loved differently. So we see how Sita decides and convinces everybody, including Ram, to accompany him during the Vanvas. But Urmila fails to do so. She tried to, but she fails, and then she doesn't try anymore because maybe she recognizes the need to be with the families, the the family, yes, or the remainings of the family because there was a heartbreak. It was a heartbreak for all of them. That scene when KK has asked for the two boons from Dashrath and who is helpless and doesn't have any other choice but to obey what she wants and to fulfill her wish. He agrees, he gives in. And Bharat isn't there. Now, when Ram goes, Lakshman is going to accompany him. Sita is going to accompany him. Mandavi and Kirti are not in Ayodhya. They are in Kekaya with Bharat. Um, and Urmila is the only one with the three queens, Kaushalya, Kekeyi, and Sumitra. So before we come to this, there was already a foreshadowing of the events which are going to come in future. And there's a point when Ram and Lakshman have been shown to be engaged in some kind of an argument, and Urmila overhears them, and she gets to know how Lakshman is not ready to get married to her. Now, Urmila was delighted when she got to know how the four of them, the four sisters, are going to get married to the four princes of Ayodhya, and she was going to get married to the love of her life. She loved Lakshman, and she was happy. But that moment when she overheard that conversation between them, where which she actually misunderstood. So, but yes, that was her first heartbreak. And then Lakshman rushes because he realizes she has overheard them, and he tries to explain the real reason for having said what he did. Urmila was under the illusion that maybe she wasn't enough for Lakshman, and that's why Lakshman did not want to get married to her. But it wasn't Urmila, but Lakshman himself. He himself was the reason why he didn't want to get married because he understood that once you get married, it has to be your better half who you need to be attentive to all the time. She needs to be the most important person in your life. But he confesses to Urmila how she can never be that person, Not that he doesn't love her, he loves her more than himself, but he cannot love her more than he loves his brother because he was like a shadow to his brother. That's how they were raised. That's how he was brought up. So it was his dharma to be there for Ram always. And he knew that it would compromise their relationship, and he could not let that happen to somebody um, as nice, as pure-hearted as Urmila. But Urmila takes uh, it to Urmila accepts it. She prioritizes her love for him over this compromise. And that was the time when I think we can already predict what is going to happen. Now, we obviously the overall story is known, so we can always find hints which were given by the writer. So that was a foreshadowing of what is to come. So before Lakshman leaves for Vanvas, they end up in an argument. Obviously, Urmila is very angry, and why would she not be angry? I have actually added this in one of the reels, but I would just like to uh, reread that part so that all of it is here in one video. I'm trying to find that page number. It's in page 148. So I'm on that page already. So she says, love is very close to hate. It doesn't take much to turn loving to hating, she said slowly, looking hard into his darkened eyes, moist and soft. I love you, but I don't recognize you anymore. I cannot but hate you for forsaking me. You have spurned me for someone else, something else. You say you love me, but you cannot remain with me here in the palace and instead of to go with your brother for 14 years. She emphasized each word. It is he who has been exiled, not you. Why should you accompany him? He has Sita with him, the kind soul that she is and the dutiful wife, she added deliberately. Because somewhere she also wanted to be that dutiful wife which she could not be, which she wasn't allowed to be. He is strong and capable enough to look after himself and Sita. Why do you need to go with them? She asks these questions, rather, she throws this question, uh, knowing that she's not going to get any answer. There won't be any response. Even to ask questions when you know there would be some response, that's easier than asking questions you know when you know that they are not going to be answered. Urmila says to herself that you can hate me for all I just said. I hope I have made it easier for you now. She thinks bleakly. I have made it easier for us to hate rather than to love each other for the next 14 years of separation. Would hatred be easier than love? That's what she says. So that tells us how it was an attempt to make it easier for both of them because even though she was angry, she knew she could not um, be the only one suffering the pain of separation, but Lakshman was equally a part of it. Now, what follows later is known to all of us. We know that Bharat comes back and then he goes to uh, the forest, the Dandaka forest, where they are in Vanvas, and he tries to convince his brother, his sister-in-law, and Lakshman to come back with them in Ayodhya since Dashrath is no more. He has died already. So while they were, but again, Ram doesn't agree because he could not disobey his father. Even though the king wasn't alive, he could not really disobey him in his absence. There was no way he could not fulfill his promise. That was his dharma, is what he says. And In this situation, we see Urmila asking the questions which a lot of us might have um, while we are reading it, we are reading or while we think about Ramayana in general. Okay, so we get to know how Bharat wasn't willing to live in palace while his brothers and his sister-in-law suffered uh, in the danger in the forest and live a difficult life. At that point, Urmila uh, is worried about Mandavi because Bharat decides that he's going to stay in Nandigram like as an ascetic and he's going to rule Ayodhya from there. So obviously that was the point that enraged Urmila because she needed to take a stand for her sister Mandavi. And she could not let what had happened to her again happen to her other loving sister. Urmila felt a fury she had never experienced before. It was white hot and smoldering, burning her from within, the flames of which reached her flashing eyes. So be it, Bharat. Like your brothers Ram and Lakshman, you too shall live a life of an ascetic, free from the bond of love and worldly care. Who cares whatever happens to your wife and your family? She asked, each word mouthed with cold deliberation. Today in this room, we have talked about all sorts of dharma, of the father and the sons, of the king and the princess, of the Brahmin and the Kshatriya, even of the wife for her husband. But is there no dharma of the husband for his wife? No dharma of the son for his mother? Is it always about the father, sons, and brothers? Princess, how dare you speak such outrageous words? Interrupted Guru Kashyap furiously. Do you think this is your father, King Janak's code that encourages free thinking women like that philosopher Kagi to debate and argue shamelessly? This is not so. So, okay, obviously she is being interrupted by the sages, and then she looked back at him unflinchingly, the heat of her fury fanning her face. I am not doubting the great minds, Gurudev. I, as the daughter-in-law of the famous Raghu dynasty of the Ikshvaku race, and not merely as the daughter of King Janak, ask a very simple question. What is the dharma of the man for his wife, the dharma of a man for his mother? Please give me an answer. So she asked the questions for the justice to be served at least to her sister. Kashyap was speechless. Everybody was speechless, but they were also angry because she asked a question like this. How dare she ask that? And yes, so she was told that we are talking about affairs of the state where personal relationships are not taken into consideration. The sage said this grudgingly, to which Urmila replies, are we now? And she says that very politely. Then, was it not personal when King Dashrath listened to his wife's wishes and stopped the coronation ceremony of Ram and banished him on a 14-year-old exile? Was that not personal? Was it personal when Queen Kaikeyi asked her son to be made king instead of Ram? Wasn't that personal? She heard a slight stir in the room but ignored it. And then she says, was it not personal when Lakshman, who could have revolted against this royal order and generated public sympathy, decided to accompany his brother instead in his exile? And Bharat coming here to persuade Ram to return, is it not personal? Everything Gurudev has been personal here. Every single political decision. It is about the father, the brother, the sons. But pray, what about the mothers, the wives? But yes, it is their dharma to follow their husbands' seasons and duties. These are the kind of questions that Urmila raises. And yeah, if you have an answer to any of these questions, please answer in the comments. What do you think about these questions which were asked by Urmila? Were they right? And if not, what do you think about it? After this scene, obviously, Bharat returns to Ayodhya I mean, Nandigram and the other family members, they start living their lives as usual. As usual, it's very easy to say that, but Urmila made it possible for them to live at least close to as usual. So she tried to make it happen. That like earlier, all the family members are going to sit together and have their meal. She made that possible, and she tried to be optimistic. She tried to be hopeful. She waited for all those years optimistically with the memories of Lakshman. And it wasn't only that, but even internal matters of the kingdom, political matters, she um, was a part of it. She stood to be a part of it, along with Bharat, obviously. She also tried to um, unite the three queens, and she understood why Kaikeyi had um, asked for those two boons at that moment. So obviously Kaikeyi was hated by everybody. She was disowned by Bharat the moment he gets to know that she was the reason Ram, Lakshman, and Sita was in exile. But later there is also an explanation to that. Why did Kaikeyi do what she did? Because she has also been shown as a warrior. She was a warrior because there was a battle, a war where she saved the Shred was about to die, and in that war, she got um, one of her fingers disfigured. It got deformed because of getting hurt in that war while saving Dashrath. And that was the moment when Dashrath told her that she could, uh, ask for anything. And then she didn't do that. And obviously, she had almost forgotten about it. But why does she ask for that in this moment is something that you would discover when you finish reading this. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly come to the conclusion. As the war raged on the shores of Lanka, the palace had witnessed within its close carved walls a war of another kind, thought Urmila Riley. Each one of them had their own battles to fight to combat the demons of their minds. Some were fighting the people around them, some with the situations they were trapped in, some with fate, some with God, and some with themselves. Even the weapons used were different: hatred, angry words, love, patience, and faith. So, this sums up the whole idea behind this perspective of Ramayana.